This episode of Podcast Portugal is brought to you by expatsportugal.com, your trusted online community for everything related to moving to, living in, or investing in Portugal. What really sets Expats Portugal apart is its welcoming, knowledgeable community. Whether you're just starting to explore the idea of life in Portugal or you're already settling in, you'll find live webinars, expert Q&As, member discounts, a vibrant forum, and friendly in-person meetups happening across the country. And just for Podcast Portugal listeners, you can get 15% off membership by using the code Podcast Portugal at checkout. That's Podcast Portugal, all one word and in caps. Visit expatsportugal.com today and start your Portugal journey with the support of people who've been there, done that, and are ready to help you do it too. This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal. I'd like to extend a really warm welcome to Rita. She is, I would call her a pastry chef, maybe, or she's going to be able to tell us a little bit more. She is really into making desserts or sweets, and she's written a number of books and has a YouTube channel, La Dolce Rita, and she's kindly come here on the podcast to talk about making desserts. So for all of you who are sweet-tasted or sweet-tongued people out there, this is all for you. Rita, big warm welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So tell us a little bit about how you got into making desserts and being a pastry chef, and a little bit about your life story.
Okay, I'm going to try to be concise about how I started, because my life gave a little bit of a turn until I got to the pastry, to the baking aisle. I studied theater. I studied to be an actress first. And after I finished my studies and I was working, I really wanted to have the experience of living abroad and studying abroad for a little while. Now, I was about 20 when I went to the US as an au pair. And I've lived there for a year in Philadelphia. And it was an amazing experience. And while I was there, I studied what I wanted, which was like I did a bunch of theater courses and classes. And I've always liked baking. It was my hobby. I have never thought about baking as a profession. But while I was living in the US, and as I was, I wanted to have my Portuguese sweets, I started baking more, and I started getting addicted of baking and watching TV shows, because this was a long time ago. And at that time in Portugal, we didn't really have baking shows. So I was amazed with the Food Network, and I spent all my free time watching that and all those other shows I could find. So when I came back to Portugal, and the normal was to carry on my actress career, but I just felt disconnected with it at the time, and I started thinking more and more and more about baking and pursuing that as a career. So that's what I did. I started looking for pastry schools, and I then found one that I thought it was a good match with me and what I wanted. And then I studied pastry for 3 years in Spain. And then I started working, and here I am still.
Wow. How does like Spanish pastry differ from Portuguese? Is there a lot of differences?
Well, there's a lot of similarities in the same ingredients that we use, because we are very close. So we basically use the same ingredients. Also, the border the cities and the regions that are a border with Spain, they also have very similar sweets, but also because most of our sweets from Portugal, from Spain, they were created in the by the nuns,
Hmm.
and those nuns, they used to travel to different convents, and sometimes they would take a little idea from a convent and a little idea from another, and so sweets are very similar, but we do have our differences. So even if the same sweet, let's say an arroz doce, which is a rice pudding, it's
Hmm.
very popular both in Portugal and Spain, and every country in the world has a different, I think, a different rice pudding. But ours are very similar, but still, I can recognize the difference between a Portuguese rice pudding and a Spanish rice pudding.
Wow, that's so cool. So the nuns actually were the sort of first people to sort of spread the different types of desserts and recipes. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, our pastry bases, they were born in the convents. There's a big historical sweets that were born in convents. Our traditional pastries, of course, then later on, we had a lot of influences also by French pastry
Mhm.
because it influenced the whole world, but we are closer geographically. So we also had a lot of influences from the other places that people came, and from from Brazil, from Africa. So it's a little bit of a melting pot, but with our roots from the nuns.
Wow, that's that I would never have guessed. And my partner Rita, she really loves the pastries which have some kind of egg. It is something that's new to me. She's like, oh yeah, it's raw egg in there. So I really, I didn't know, I had no idea.
Yeah, because those sweets, they there's a lot of stories that are around the sweets. Most of them are not true, they're just like anecdotes. Some are true. So there's a lot of fantasy surrounding the creation of the sweets, but it's said that most of our sweets that are made with egg yolks, they were created because the egg whites were used a lot in the convents by the nuns for two specific things. One was for the wine industry, to clarify the wine.
Okay.
You need egg whites, and also there's a lot of written documents about the usage of egg whites to create a certain kind of a paste that would serve to keep the habit, the nun's clothes. I don't know the name in
Yeah, the
English,
habit. Yeah, it's
but
habit.
yeah, the habit, it's the same. Just very straight. So
Hmm.
the nuns at that time had, they were they were from families that had money. Usually in the older days, the first girls that were born were married, and some others, like, they would go to the convent. It was like a cultural thing. So the families would take care of them and would donate to the convents. They would donate sugar, for instance. And so the nuns had three things, basically: yolks, sugar, and time. So
Hey.
So I think that's, I don't know if exactly 100% this happened, but I'm sure there's a percentage of it that it's true. And that is why we have a lot of sweets in our traditional pastry that have that eggy custard, a lot of eggs, a lot of almonds, because there's a lot of almonds,
Mhm.
especially in the south. So that's probably why.
I think most of the listeners probably would have heard, if not tasted, the pastel de nata. I think that's
Yes.
probably the most well-known or most famous from my perspective anyway. I've
Yeah.
lived in Portugal now 13, 14 years and I've never tried one. Can you believe?
What?
Yeah, I don't have a very sweet tooth, unfortunately. Yeah,
I think you should have to. You should be obliged
I
to try.
know.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. I'm missing a huge culture because everybody I speak to, that's just, if they've visited or they've moved here, that it's something that
It's
they
it's
all do.
it's something that people do as soon as they land. They come and have a pastel de nata, and up until a few years, it was very local to us. The pastel de nata was very well known to every Portuguese, and the tourists that came, they would go to eat a pastel de nata somewhere. But now it's kind of spread around, and
Mhm.
sometimes I have friends living in a lot of places in the world, and pastel de nata is getting to all of them. There's pastel de nata in the American supermarkets already.
Wow.
So everywhere now the pastel de nata is arriving. So it's becoming popular all over the world, and I think it's because the tourists that came here and had it and enjoyed it, and then wanted to have pastel de nata back at home. So I'm
Mhm.
thinking it's that.
Yeah, I think also there's a huge diaspora of Portuguese living abroad.
Yes, yes.
I'm not sure what the recent count is, but I worked it out somewhere in my statistics. And a lot of the listeners now um, are actually from the US and from Canada and from Brazil, particularly listening in English. And I'm assuming that a lot of them are actually Portuguese listening in English because they sort of want to hear a little bit more about home. Um, and for sure, pastel de nata, it's some wise person there would open a little bakery in New York or something, and they'll
No,
do very well.
it already exists.
I'm sure.
There's a pastéis nata in a few bakeries, but there is a Portuguese guy that opened pastel nata specific bakery, and I think he is a success.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah, it's a nice story. But how does the story of, do you know the story of how pastel, how do you pronounce it like pastéis? Like, is that the plural or pastel?
Well, if it's one, it's just pastel. If
Ah,
it's
okay.
a lot, and I mean, when you go to Pastéis de Belém, it's really weird if you only have one. Usually, people have two or three.
Okay, okay. This is this is that famous store, isn't it, in Berlin?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's a big
That's
queue outside, and
well. The story is not, as I told you. There's a lot of fantasy around the creation of sweets, and pastel de nata, being our most famous sweet, has also a lot of story behind that. But what the most formal story is that the pastel de nata was created by monks that lived in the monastery just across the street from where today the bakery is.
Mm.
And when the monastery closed, because there were no more, the monks died, and the last ones, they already sold the pastéis nata, because that was something that both nuns and monks used to do to survive and to provide more money for their survival. So they would sell sweets, and so the monks in the monastery of Belém, they would sell pastel de nata, and then when the monastery closed down, they sold the recipe to this bakery. And this is supposed to be like the first pastel de nata recipe. The ones from that specific bakery, they register the name, so they are called pastel de Belém. Belém
Ah, okay.
is a neighborhood in Lisbon, And so all the other ones, they are more or less like a copy of this
Uh-huh. Okay.
original.
That's good. That's really interesting. I love these little cultural stories that sort of are behind all of these things like
Yeah.
wine or pastries or restaurants and foods. Um,
And you know, this specific bakery, the Pastel de Belém, only three people know the recipe, so it's all like very involved in mystery. And they have, I don't know if you've been there, but
no,
it's funny, they have a little room that is called the secret room, where the one of the three people that know the recipe go and mixture the ingredients, and then all the other workers, all they do is that mix and just put assemble the pastries, and that's it.
hmm. Okay. Now I've also heard that I might have even seen it in one of your books that you um, are really into making homemade ice creams. Now that's something I do like. Not actually ice creams. I like sorbet. When I go around to my in-laws' family, they they have a special tub of lime sorbet because they know I like it so much, and they'll have ice creams and walnuts and stuff like that. But I just love the really citrusy, um, you know,
Yeah, that's because you don't have like such a sweet tooth, so you prefer like more acidic things and
yeah,
fresh.
I think so. Fresh, yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, I like there is a type of thing in the UK. It's called like a cherry bakewell.
Yeah,
And I think it has like an almondy essence to it. I think I like that.
it has an almond cream. It's
Okay.
I love Bakewell.
Yeah, I really like that one. But I have a little bit of an allergy to cream, I think. Although Rita teases me a little bit, but she says it's just an excuse not to eat too
Yeah,
many sweets.
maybe that's your mind,
Yeah, I
because
think
it
so.
already knows that you don't have a sweet tooth, so it blocks
Yeah.
the. That's okay. I don't mind people that say they don't have a sweet tooth, because there is more sweet for me than
Yeah, exactly. But no, but I like to have desserts. And just as it doesn't need to be, not all desserts need to be too sweet, right?
ours are a bit too sweet. Our
Yeah,
desserts
okay.
are a bit too
Why not?
sweet, but no, it's our culture, and the recipes, they evolve, and now we try to recreate them without having them lose the essence, but do them in a more um in a way that they are like more into the times that we are living. So try to not discharacterize it by making it healthy. That's not the point. But
Mm,
really, in the time, maybe 500 years ago, when the recipe was created, really, they had to put a lot of sugar because there were no refrigerators. So
yeah,
the f- now we so the sugar acted as a conservative, like a preservative, right?
yeah.
Something to not let the recipe to spoil. And now we don't need that amount of sugar to do that role. So
Mm,
we are
yeah.
trying a little bit at, we are evolving with the recipes.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, health benefits and desserts. But you know what my belief is, that you could have enjoy your desserts every day and just make sure you get enough exercise. I think if you were
Exactly.
100 years
Exactly.
ago, if you're out in the fields, you have a couple of pastel de natas, you've burnt those calories off within like an
And
hour.
we don't need to eat a couple of pastéis not every day, but if you are when you're eating one like once a week, it should be a great pastel de nata, not like yeah, it was okay because
Yeah,
it was like made with half the sugar, and you know, I think it's important to adapt and to understand where the recipe came from and why is that the recipe was made that in that way, but then to adapt it to our times, but without going overboard and putting the recipe in a place that it's no longer a good dessert. It's just like more or less. So I believe that desserts and sweets, they are just to be consumed, at a party or in the weekends, or
Nice.
sometimes you just feel like it, but not every day. So this craziness of putting desserts like in a healthy perspective is that if you are going to have them have every day, if you're not like you're supposed, you don't need that. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. It's all about balance, isn't it? You can have that sweet
Mhm.
that's designed nice quality and nice and sweet, but just have it as a treat. Yeah, exactly. Like have it not every day. Or, yeah, I mean, there's so much crazy, extreme sort of diet stuff out there. It's just we're flooded
Yeah.
with the noise of just rubbish. Really, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
nonsense. All this extremist sort of dietary advice is just not healthy. And I think the benefits of just a little bit of appreciating things, not having it too much, not going to excesses, and enjoying it because there's an emotional benefit to enjoying something like that.
Exactly. And the
Um,
sweet more than the savory dishes itself. The sweets have this connection, everybody remembers either a grandma, an aunt. It's like a more connected with the emotional, I think the
mhm.
sweets have. So if you think about it, every celebration, you remember the cake is the king of the celebration, a wedding, a christening, a birthday. It's the cake. Nobody thinks, oh, the chicken of the birthday. No, it's the cake.
Yeah.
So sweets have this emotional thing as well, I think.
Yeah, that's true. So it's in its essence, really, the tradition is that it's to celebrate a special occasion. So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Okay, that's a good perspective. So everybody out there, don't starve yourself of sweets. It's really silly. Just enjoy it to make sure you get the best quality and enjoy
Yeah.
it. Just not every day and not every mealtime. Um, yeah, nice. So you've written a few books, five in total. When was the first one you wrote, and what sort of influenced you to start writing books about pastry? And also you started, I think, in 2014 your YouTube channel.
Yes, actually, it's 6 books now.
Ah, 6 books.
Sometimes I lose
Yeah.
count. Well, I at the 2014, I had an idea of launching a brand of baking mixes because we didn't have those here in Portugal. I had been living in the US where the baking mixes, like the gourmet kind, not the ones from the supermarkets, but I thought that idea was really, really nice. And I decided to give it a try and launch a brand of baking mixes. And I called it La Dolce Rita, just a play on words with La Dolce Vita.
Yeah. Nice.
And I started that the baking mixes company, and I started making videos because it was something that it was not very common here in Portugal, that concept, and people didn't really know what they were. They were very confused because we have a long tradition of baking from scratch here in Portugal. Everybody does it. It's like something that everybody grew up in a family. Either it's your mom or your grandma or your aunt that bakes, and it's baking from scratch, so we don't really have shortcuts. So the baking mixes were very, very weird for some people to understand, so I started making videos to explain and to just so people would understand what a baking mix was, that they would buy this product that was like in powder form, and at their homes they would mix a few ingredients, then they would get cookies or brownies. So I started making videos because of that. And then a few years later, I realized that the business was not sustainable because, for what I explained before, the people were not very used to this. So the market was very small for my clients. My clientele was very loyal, but very few, and the business was not sustainable. So I decided to give it up. So I finished that business, but the videos kept having success, and people would ask for more videos. And so I decided to do more videos. That I already had the channel open, the name. And so I decided to just keep doing the recipe videos. And I thought, okay, I will figure out what I will do with my life next. Either I'm gonna work in a bakery or a hotel, or I was, in that place in a moment. I was still very young, and I was thinking, okay, I have a few. If I have a time to think about what I want to do, it's now. So I decided to take a few months to think about what I wanted to do next, but I kept on doing the videos. So the recipes, every week I would do a recipe, and that was also something for me, for to have, to occupy my time, to have my head thinking what is the recipe I will make next. So the channel started having people, and this was in the beginning of YouTube here in
Yeah.
Portugal. There were very
2014.
very yeah, it was very few people doing baking or like cooking videos. Very few. I think baking videos, I was the first, like 100% exclusive baking. I think I was the first one here in Portugal. And so that's how I started the YouTube. And it keeps going
Yeah.
11 years after. So I still put a video a week of a recipe. And uh, around this time, I had a friend of a friend, an acquaintance that worked at a publisher. And they were looking for a pastry chef, a baker, someone that could help them in the publisher to help with the book that they had. They wanted to publish, and they wanted someone that provided a few recipes for the book. And so she knew me through other people, and I did that job for the publisher. And a few months later, the book did well, and they said, well, what about if we do like a book with you as an author? Because in that book, I wasn't an author. I was just doing a collaboration. So that's how my first book came about. And I decided to do an ice cream book because first I worked at before all of this the baking mixes company. I was working at an ice cream company, and I was responsible for developing the ice cream flavors. And ice cream is my favorite thing to eat. and and there were no ice cream books in Portugal by Portuguese authors. And so I thought ice cream would be a good theme for a book. And it turns out it was. So book did well, and then the publisher kept asking for more. And I do a book about every 18 months, I would say. Sometimes it's like every year, and then sometimes every 2 years, more or less. So it's in 10 years, I did 6 books. So it's not bad.
Congratulations. It's nice to hear as well, because you started out your life into theater, and so and then you're also passionate about pastry, and you've combined those two things that you spent time on when you were younger into the YouTube channel. So it's interesting how people, they find a passion, they also train in things, or they take a job that at the time they might not feel is necessarily relevant just to get you by, but you draw from that experience and you draw from education that you might not have thought was relevant at the time, and bring it all together, and you make a success out of it. It's really nice.
Yeah, and it all turns out. I mean, it's like you said. Sometimes we are in a place and we think, "Oh, this was a disease." Like, I mean, this was not worth it. Or
Mhm.
even if I think about that little company that I started and it didn't go through, I don't think about that as something that went wrong. It really
Mhm.
just uh, m- made me to the right path. But if I didn't start that, I wouldn't be doing what I am doing today. And it started because the company didn't work.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting, isn't it? I'm wondering why, like you say, that maybe there's a proportion of Portuguese families here that maybe you have quite a few that start from scratch. They get the raw ingredients and make it, more in the traditional way, like the grandma, or
yeah.
and then perhaps also the families that are a little bit more busy, maybe they just go and buy it from a pastry store. So
Yeah,
maybe that sort
there's
of,
no in between.
yeah.
There's really no in between here because, and some brands, like bigger brands, tried to do the baking mixes in the supermarkets. They never work because either it's like you said, either people do it from scratch, or if they don't do it from scratch, they will just buy it from a place that they like. And it's not like, for instance, in the US, you have like, you want to make a pie and you go into the supermarket and you have like the crust of the pie already in a pie mold, and you have the pie filling in a can. And people buy those two things, they get home, they open the can, they put it inside of the pie shell, and they call that baking a pie.
But why they don't go to a pie shop and buy it? It
Yeah,
seems.
but I'm talking in the US,
Mm,
maybe in the UK or Canada, they also have a lot of this. But there's that in between that people want to be involved. They want to still be involved in the process, but they don't want to weigh ingredients and to get the mixer dirty, or so they just compromise and they buy the crust and they buy the filling and they assemble it. Here in Portugal, that culture is not what it is. You make the crust, you make the filling,
mm,
and or you just go and buy it from a place that you like.
yeah.
So it's like there's no in between, I think.
I think it could also be on a lot to do with price point, because I think if you buy the raw ingredients, you're getting ingredients that is possibly from Portugal. If you are buying it from a store, the prices from pastry stores and shops are pretty good, pretty reasonable. So maybe if it's packaged, or if it's imported packaging anyway, it tends to be really expensive in the
Yeah,
supermarkets.
yeah, yeah. It's more expensive than
Mm.
if you go and buy it from a nice place. So I think that's probably that, and also because and people that make things at home, they still have a lot of pride and joy to do it everything. So, uh, and there's also this places that still do this thing that there's only done in that specific place. So there's also a lot of pride to
Yeah.
go to that specific place and buy something for your family from that place.
Hmm.
So that's also, everything is a good idea as long as there's dessert.
That's a nice message for sure. Yeah, I mean, I really, I like I said, I appreciate doing the sorbets, but I've never even thought to make one. Maybe it's a challenge for me to make. But you know what? We grow melons here on the farm, and just for me, just picking a melon and sticking it in the fridge the night before, and then opening the melon is like, oh, that's. I don't need to do any work with this. Just cut it.
Exactly. Sometimes, like if you were, for instance, I had my mom went to cherry picking last week, and
Oh
she brought
my god,
uh,
I love
a,
cherries.
a box of cherries. I mean, if I were to use those cherries to do a dessert, that would be a sacrilege.
Yeah.
The cherries were already perfect. have them as they are, nature's gift. They are perfect. They don't need to be used in anything else. So the melon is the same thing for you. I particularly don't like melons, but that's we are here and we are all different, and there's something for everyone. But if the melon is already good, enjoy it as is. I'm all for that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, cherries. I'm complete. Unfortunately, I want to grow some cherry trees here, but we're a little bit hot. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
too
might be
hot.
too hot for the. But yeah, our whole family is completely crazy with cherries, and they're so expensive as well. Um,
Yeah.
but,
And also because they are available in such a little period, they are still one of the few things that are special,
mm,
like seasonal. Because nowadays you can have a pineapple, a banana, a mango, a kiwi all year round. Even strawberries not so good, but still you can find them all year round. And cherries, think, are still one of
I
those
think so.
things that you can only find them like good cherries a month a year. So they are special because of that.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I didn't think about it in that way. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know, like with cherries and with fruits and yeah, I've actually lost my train of thought there. What I was going to ask. Oh, that's right. Now I had a memory of you were talking about strawberries. I had a really good memory of when I was a kid. We always used to go to a strawberry farm in the southwest of UK. What they used to do is have a pick your own. So you go in
Yeah,
this.
that's what my mom did
Oh,
with the cherries.
oh no way! You can do it here in Portugal. Cherry picking.
Yes, yes. Now next year, because now they are, I
Oh,
think, finished for the season. Yeah, but you can go to Fundão where the
Fundão.
cherry.
Okay, okay, that's what we're
Yeah,
gonna do. I'm gonna do that next year. That's
and
a
there's
great idea.
this thing. It's called the cherry train that they leave from Lisbon. A train that goes to that place, and you spend the day there cherry picking, and then they bring it back.
No way.
So
I'm
looking
I'm
for
gonna write
next.
this right now in my notebook right here. Cherry Train. That is such a cool name, the Cherry Train.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Flow Sports and Flow Grappling, the streaming platform dedicated for fans of grappling, rugby, basketball, volleyball, swimming, cycling, and much more. If you're into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, you'll want to head straight to Flow Grappling. They stream all the major events IBJJF, ADCC, WNO, and the Pan Ams. And yes, even the IBJJF European Masters, where you could have watched me win gold. Tap the link in the show notes or go to podcastportugal.com to subscribe and get access to all the action. So what's in store? What's the future of La Dolce Rita? What have you got planned in the coming years? I notice here, Home Sweet Home, a pastry shop. Is that something that you're thinking about doing in the future, or?
No, not really. It's if I do open a pastry shop, I would be confined to that. I think to be a good pastry shop, I think I would have to focus on that, and then I couldn't focus on the other things. And so for now, I'm not saying that like in the future, like a distant future, I wouldn't do it, but like as for now and in the upcoming years, I don't see myself doing it. I enjoy my life as it is now, and I mm, would like to keep going and to keep doing this. I am very content with what I'm doing now, which is writing my books and doing my videos. I also teach pastry classes, and so I really enjoy it. And I'm planning to do that. Maybe grow a little bit, like in a organic way,
Mm.
to get to more people. So more people come to my classes and buy my books, but that's about it.
Nice. No, it's good. You have a really, really nice brand, and maybe there would be somebody out there that wants to run it for you, run a pastry shop. Because I'm sure the working hours of baking is pretty crazy, right?
Well, I don't really think we all have to achieve like we all have to have big things. I'm quite content in
Yeah.
my,
Nice.
my niche audience and my niche subscribers and book buyers. It's nice. I don't achieve like to be like the to have the best bakery or to be the best pastry chef, or I don't have like those big dreams. I think if you have like if you wake up like happy with what you're doing, that's already won in life.
Nice. That's a great message. And so, where can somebody sign up to have a bakery class with you, or where can they find your books? And what is the best? I'll leave a link you see in the show notes that it goes out on all the podcast platforms, and
Well,
they can find your books, find your YouTube, find your um, everything about you.
okay, so it's very easy to find me on YouTube and Instagram by La Dolce Rita on YouTube. I do videos every Thursdays, so that's easy to find, and the subscribe is free. Then on Instagram, I also have the same handle, La Dolce Rita, and on Instagram, I post more like very pastry content, a little snaps of my daily life, the things that I am testing, a little snippets of the recipes that I am creating. And then my books are sold in every bookshop in Portugal,
Wow.
either physical or online. So you can just search for my name, Rita Nascimento, and you will find my books. I have an ice cream book, a cookies book, a cakes book. I have a book about like the basics of pastry, very focused in Portuguese pastry, Portuguese baking. And then I have, let me see, there are six. Oh, I have one that was very popular. It still is. It's called 555. It's
Mm.
sweets that are made in 5 minutes, up to five ingredients, and that cost up to €5. So that's a fun one. And then there's the last one that are desserts that are made in trays. So those are my books. You can find them in all bookshops. And my classes, I was teaching a lot of classes, but at the moment, I am only focusing on online teaching.
Mhm.
So you can find those at my site. That is www.ladolcerita.net.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Rita. It's a really interesting
Sure.
subject, and I'm sure lots of the listeners are going to find your recipes and give it a go. And I think I love cooking, and I'm sure that to give those, make your own Portuguese desserts and sweets and learn how to do it. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Hope
much for
so.
your
I hope
time.
I hope you're inspired to do some baking.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll bake. I bake with my son. Then maybe that's a good thing to do. He bakes with his grandma. So I cannot really compete with that. I like to barbecue with him. Um,
I
but we were thinking the other day because we have like a bread maker. Maybe we can make some cakes or something like that in there. But yeah, that'd be nice. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really interesting.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And I salute all your listeners.
Yay! Thank you, Rita. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal, thanking Rita and all the listeners, and get baking, people. Over and out.
Ditch the plastic and the toxins. Mother's Earth dishwasher papers are made from non-toxic, eco-certified materials, so they're safer for your home, your health, your family, and the planet. No bulky plastic bottles, no waste, just clean dishes, shipped anywhere in Europe, and 3 times cheaper than those toxic tabs. you buy in the supermarkets. Click the link in the show notes to start saving. Simple, secure currency transfers from once-in-a-lifetime property purchase of your dreams to everyday expenses. Currencies Direct helps you save time and money on international transfers. Rated excellent on Trustpilot with over 17,000 positive reviews. Spend like a local with their multi-currency MasterCard. Tap the link in the show notes to get started.
Makes me wanna build a fusion reactor, starting just with the basic switch, connecting poles and energy. Mom says focus on geography,